In Killzone, Moipis City, a huge dragon flies across the sky, breathing fire and destroying everything below. Buildings burn and people run in panic. The frontliners wonder why it suddenly appeared. Then one of them spots White Knight, the player who crossed the national border alone. Zichuan, the guild master of the Desolate Ghost Guild, says the gap is simply too big. He wonders if this is the true strength of the Divine Dragon Empire's strongest player. They already know Moipis won't be able to hold out. None of them can believe that a single person could cause destruction on this level. And yet, that's exactly what's happening. The necromancer White Knight is riding the dragon above them. To everyone watching, he looks less like a player, and more like a terrifying monster. Then the necromancer White Knight releases his undead legion, sending them out to devour everything and absorb even more power. But even now, he says his strength still isn't enough. He values this life given to him by the Myriad Worlds game. His goal is simple: become stronger. After all, he once had only 1 health point left and barely 1 year to live. He stood at death's door, yet somehow survived and climbed all the way to this point. Several months earlier, on Blue Star. Inside a hospital room, a man lies on a bed, connected to life support machines. His name is Su Mubai. Standing beside him, someone starts adjusting the machine and coldly tells him that if he dies, he better not come back to haunt her. Mubai instantly recognizes the voice, Liu Ruyan. Even though his body can't move, his mind is still clear. He wonders why they're unplugging the equipment when he isn't even dead yet, especially when she's supposed to be his fiancée. But Ruyan calmly says he's no different from a dead person anyway, and that she's simply doing him a favor. Mubai finds the situation almost laughable. He was once Blue Star's #1 gamer, a man with assets worth trillions. Yet after a terrible accident, he ended up as a vegetable. Now he can hear everything around him, but he can't move a single finger. He refuses to accept this fate, and he has no idea how things turned out like this. Suddenly, a blonde man barges into the room and asks Ruyan why she's hesitating. This man is Zhao Shu, Mubai's university classmate. He sneers and asks if she actually fell in love with Mubai and can't bring herself to finish the job. Hearing this, Mubai is stunned. He can't understand why Zhao Shu suddenly showed up here. Zhao Shu then points out that Mubai's parents are already dead. Once Mubai dies, Ruyan will inherit his entire fortune. Only then does Mubai realize the horrifying truth. The two of them have been secretly involved all along. Zhao Shu pulls Ruyan into his arms and proudly reveals that 5 years ago, he was the one who arranged for her to get close to Mubai. Everything was part of a plan leading up to this very moment. Ruyan coldly replies that it's Shu's fault for failing to kill Mubai in the car crash, forcing them to go through all this trouble. Mubai is filled with disbelief. From the very beginning of university, he treated them like family, like a brother and a lover he could trust. Zhao Shu admits he never expected Mubai to survive such a brutal accident. But today, even if God himself appeared, Mubai wouldn't be saved. Then he reaches forward and removes Mubai's oxygen mask. After that, he starts flirting with Ruyan, but she tells him not to rush things. Even if they plan to move rooms soon, doing something like that in front of a dead man feels like bad luck. Laughing, Zhao Shu lifts her into his arms like a princess and warns that he'll deal with her properly in a moment. She playfully calls him a bad boy. Meanwhile, Mubai's mind remains completely conscious, but his body is slowly failing as he struggles to breathe. He finally understands the cruel truth. From the day they first met him, the two of them had been plotting everything. Even so, he desperately tries to move his body. He refuses to accept dying like this. He can't believe this is how his life will end, no matter what. He refuses to give up. Suddenly, a mysterious door appears out of nowhere. The strange sight shocks everyone. Some people even believe it might be the start of an alien invasion. Then a voice announces that Blue Star has been selected to participate in the Myriad Worlds game. All participants will start from zero and begin a brand new life. Mass transmigration will begin in 30 seconds. At the same time, information about the game is directly placed into everyone's mind, allowing them to recall it instantly. People quickly realize the information is real. Data about the Myriad Worlds game suddenly appears in their thoughts. One woman nervously wonders what kind of game this could be. A man nearby says the ones who should really be worried are the rich and powerful, because this game has no pay-to-win system. Meanwhile, Ruyan and Zhao Shu are lying in bed when the screens appear. Ruyan panics, saying she doesn't even know how to play games and fighting alien races sounds extremely dangerous. Zhao Shu, however, is furious. He complains that he was just about to become a billionaire, and now none of the wealth from reality can be brought into the game. Ruyan suddenly remembers something. As long as someone still has a single breath left, they can enter the Myriad Worlds game. She wonders if Mubai might be able to enter as well. Zhao scoffs and says, even if Mu Bai manages to last 30 seconds, someone in his condition would only enter the game as a cripple. Soon, the countdown reaches 0. The teleportation begins. Mu Bai is still alive through all of this. To him, this feels like a final chance given by heaven itself. He refuses to die here. He refuses to give up. As the teleportation starts, streaks of light fly toward the door. Some people panic as they are pulled toward it, terrified of leaving their homes behind. But others welcome the change with excitement, ready to begin their new lives. Someone lands inside the Descender's temple. It's Mu Bai. He quickly realizes this isn't a dream. He can stand again. A system voice welcomes Blue Star players to the Myriad Worlds game and begins scanning body data. After entering the game, he receives the identity of a Descender and is asked to register a name. Mu Bai can't help but think, being alive again feels truly good. He chooses the name White Knight. The registration succeeds and his beginning talent awakens. All players entering the Myriad Worlds game awaken a talent in the Starry Sky Hall. Talents are divided into 9 ranks, from the lowest F rank to the highest SSS rank. Anyone who wants to rise in this world needs a powerful talent. White Knight can only hope his luck isn't terrible, and surprisingly, his luck isn't bad at all. He awakens the S rank forbidden talent, Promotion. Even he didn't expect to obtain something this powerful. The talent has 3 effects. First is Promotion, which can permanently raise any object by 1 tier without cost. Second is Sublimation, which consumes resources to permanently raise an object by 2 tiers. Third is Cataclysm, which consumes lifespan to raise an object by 3 tiers and adds a special Cataclysm effect. Luckily, the first use of Cataclysm has no cost. Basic classes fall into 4 major categories: Physical, Magic, Defense, and Support. White Knight wonders if he should become a warrior or a mage, but then the system scans his starting attributes and announces they don't meet the requirements. Several classes are immediately removed from the selection list. White Knight is confused about what that means. Soon, the system reveals the result. Based on his initial attributes, the only class he can choose is Necromancer. The system automatically assigns the class. In other words, he never had a choice to begin with. Still, being a Necromancer isn't the worst outcome. But then he notices something strange. His health is permanently set to 1 HP. To his shock, he truly has only 1 drop of blood. A single hit could kill him. Even worse, his remaining lifespan is only 1 year. At that moment, White Knight almost feels the S-rank talent is pointless. Still, he has no choice but to take a gamble. After all, he just awakened the Promotion talent, so he decides to promote his class. Promoting Necromancer by 3 tiers would normally require 100,000 years of lifespan. Fortunately, he still has 1 free use of the Cataclysm effect. Without hesitation, he confirms the upgrade. The system immediately congratulates him for evolving into the exclusive hidden class, Death Sovereign. His attribute growth changes, and he now gains 15 free attribute points every level up. He also learns 2 new skills, Lifelink and Summon Amplification. On top of that, he receives the exclusive item Book of Death. His hidden class now carries the powerful Cataclysm characteristic. White Knight can't help but feel satisfied with the result. Right then, the system announces that the Myriad Worlds game will officially begin in 10 seconds and advises all players to prepare. White Knight realizes he spent almost all his time experimenting with his talent. Then he remembers Ruyan and Zhao Shu. He silently swears that one day he will find this adulterous couple and make them experience true despair. The countdown ends. Inside the Myriad Worlds game, every time a player dies, they lose levels and 10% of their lifespan, with a minimum loss of 10 years each time. However, under the Novice Village protection, death only causes level loss and does not reduce lifespan. The Blue Star players are welcomed into the Myriad Worlds game. They are transported to the Divine Dragon Empire, Novice Village number 9527. The system wishes them safety on the journey ahead. Many people are excited. The kind of fantasy worlds they once read about in novels have finally become real. Players quickly begin forming teams, preparing to explore together. Meanwhile, White Knight decides to test his skills first, at the village gate. He summons a small skeleton. It's an F-rank level 1 summon, a weak skeleton that fights for him. The cast time is 3 seconds, the cooldown is 30 seconds, and it costs 20 mana. Its stats scale with the player's spirit attribute. He also has the active skill Scorch, another F-rank level 1 skill. It releases Soul Fire that burns the target, dealing 150% spell power damage over 5 seconds. The range is 30 meters, the cast time is 2 seconds, the cooldown is 5 seconds, and it consumes 10 mana. White Knight feels satisfied. At least he has 1 summon skill and 1 attack skill to start with. In addition, he has Lifelink, a level 1 active skill. It allows him to link with a summoned undead and share health points with it. The skill casts instantly, and has a 10-second cooldown. He also has Summon Amplification, an S-rank passive skill with no level. It reduces summoning cast time by 50%, reduces cooldown by 50%, and increases summoned creature attributes by 500%. White Knight finds it amusing that he already has an A-rank skill and an S-rank skill this early. With Lifelink, he can share health with his summons, meaning his own low health might not be such a big problem. Then something unexpected appears. The Book of Death. This item is exclusive to the Death Sovereign class and serves as his unique offhand item. It cannot be dropped, damaged, or traded. The book is currently level 0, and its attributes will unlock after reaching level 1. Its special effects will unlock at level 10. It is described as a book of laws that only White Knight can read. Once the requirements are met, he can learn exclusive Death Sovereign skills from it. Since the book currently has no stats, he assumes it will only become useful after level 10. For now, he decides not to worry about it and focuses on testing his summon. He casts Small Skeleton again, but this time, 2 skeletons appear at once. The system immediately notifies him that the Cataclysm trait has been triggered. Because of the Death Sovereign class effect, all of his skill effects are doubled. However, the second and third class effects are still locked until he reaches a higher level. Even though 2 skeletons appear, they still look fairly weak. At that moment, another player notices him summoning them. Seeing 2 skeletons appear at once, the player assumes White Knight must have at least an A-rank talent. He approaches and suggests they team up. Since he also has an A-rank talent, he believes the two of them could level up much faster together, but White Knight refuses. He says he prefers to grind levels alone. Then he turns and walks away. The man immediately gets offended and shouts after him, telling him to stop pretending to be some powerful summoner when he probably can't even kill a free-range chicken. Mubai arrives in the forest and sees a party struggling to kill a free-range chicken. The tank regrets choosing his class and complains that the stupid chicken is too strong. The frontliner tells him to stop whining and just kill it already. The mage grumbles that the chicken's attack is actually higher than his. Right now, a level 0 player is weaker than a level 1 chicken. One of them gets fed up and says he's going back to the village to look for a lifestyle class. If anyone enjoys fighting something like that, they can deal with it themselves. The free-range chicken is level 1, with 100 over 100 HP, 10 attack, 5 physical defense, and 5 magic defense. White Knight walks past them with his 2 small skeletons, and the party immediately notices him. His summons look pretty strong, so they whisper among themselves that he must have awakened a powerful talent. Naturally, they start feeling jealous. One of their teammates quickly tells them to stop staring and focus on killing the chicken. White Knight calmly says he won't steal their monsters. With his class skill being this ridiculous, killing a chicken would honestly feel like overkill. Just then, he notices the nearby bushes shaking. Suddenly, 2 rabbits jump out. They're red-eyed rabbits, level 2, with 150 over 150 HP, 15 attack, 7 physical defense, and 7 magic defense. These creatures jump straight up to attack a man's most sensitive area. White Knight immediately realizes getting hit by that would hurt a lot. The rabbits rush forward and strike the skeletons, dealing 13 to 15 damage. White Knight feels relieved he doesn't have to fight them himself. Since no one else is around, he decides to summon a few more skeletons and properly test their strength. He tells them to go all out. The skeletons charge forward and slash the red-eyed rabbits with their swords. Soon, one rabbit collapses. White Knight gains an extra 50% level gap bonus and earns +3 experience. The growth speed seems decent. At this rate, reaching level 1 shouldn't take long. He checks his status. His health remains 1 over 1. But thanks to lifelink, one skeleton now has 400 over 400 HP, while the second has 393 over 400 HP. The doubled effects are impressive. By linking with 2 skeletons at the same time, he's no longer someone who can be killed with a single hit. Still, he knows he shouldn't attract too much attention. For now, summoning too many skeletons would be suspicious. 4 should be enough. With that decided, White Knight continues grinding for levels. He sends the 4 small skeletons to fight nearby monsters. Before long, a group of players notices him and starts staring. To them, it looks like White Knight is leveling up just by taking a casual walk. It's way too convenient. One of the players, who is also a summoner, complains that his own summons look nothing like those skeletons. Another guesses that White Knight must have at least an S-rank talent to control 4 summons at once. The curly-haired guy even says White Knight's strength is probably already near the top of Novice Village, number 9527. Just then, the system announces that White Knight has leveled up. His 4 base attributes each gain +1 point, and he receives +1 skill point, along with +15 free attribute points. Finally reaching level 1 makes him feel pretty satisfied. He opens his character panel and thinks about his stats. Since his summon scale with Spirit, he definitely needs to invest there. But with only 1 HP, having more agility could save his life in emergencies. After thinking it over, he adds 4 points to agility and 11 points to Spirit. Since his talent can promote things, he decides to upgrade his skills next. He tells the system to promote them directly. The promotion succeeds. His F-rank skill, Summon Small Skeleton, upgrades into the E-rank skill, Summon Skeleton. His F-rank skill, Scorch, also upgrades to E-rank. Meanwhile, his A-rank skill, Lifelink, evolves into an S-rank skill. The new E-rank Summon Skeleton allows him to summon a skeleton fighter with a 3-second cast time, 30-second cooldown, and 40 mana cost, with stats scaling from his spirit. As for Scorch, it now deals 200% spell power damage over 5 seconds, with the same 30-meter range, 2-second cast time, and 5-second cooldown, consuming 20 mana. At the same time, a new passive appears, Death Conscription, an SS rank passive skill with no level. Its effects are powerful. First, summoning skill cast time is reduced by 75%. Second, summoning cooldowns are reduced by 75%. Third, summoned creature attributes increase by 100%. And fourth, the summoning space capacity doubles. White Knight can't help but comment that Lifelink truly deserves its S-rank rating. By passively sharing health with all his summons, his effective health pool skyrockets. Even though he technically still has 1 HP, his shared health now adds up to nearly 9,000 HP. And with Death Conscription, he can summon up to 20 skeleton soldiers. At this point, he no longer needs to stay low-key. He plans to open his summoning space and grind levels aggressively. Since he upgraded his skills, there's no reason not to upgrade his exclusive equipment too. The system announces that the promotion is successful. His exclusive item Book of Death evolves into the Death Scripture. This item remains exclusive to White Knight. It cannot be dropped, damaged, or traded, and can be summoned or dismissed freely. At level 1, it follows the character and provides plus 15 spell power, with additional special effects unlocking at level 10. Still, White Knight feels slightly disappointed. The only bonus for now is 15 spell power, so he decides to focus on leveling until he reaches level 10. With that settled, the real grinding begins. He sends more skeletons charging forward. After all, the more the merrier. This time, their target is a fox monster. White Knight tries summoning all 20 skeletons. Thanks to Death Conscription reducing cooldown by 75%, combined with the Cataclysm trait, each skeleton now takes only about 2 seconds to summon. The skeletons continue hunting level 3 Razorclaw cat demons, gaining a 50% level gap bonus and plus 5 experience each time. White Knight enjoys how fast his levels are rising. Soon, the system announces that he has reached level 2. His 4 attributes increase by plus 1 point each, and he also receives plus 1 skill point and plus 15 free attribute points. He simply orders his skeletons to keep grinding. About half an hour later, he arrives at a strange boulder that looks like a portal. This place is the entrance to the first dungeon. Mist Forest. The Mist Forest is known to contain valuable treasures, but at the same time, it's also filled with danger. The system asks if he's sure he wants to challenge the dungeon alone. White Knight confirms without hesitation. After all, he has plenty of lackeys following behind him. Next, he's asked to select the dungeon difficulty. The options appear: easy, normal, hard, nightmare, and hell. Without thinking twice, he chooses Hell difficulty, and then he steps through the portal. White Knight enters the Hell difficulty Mist Forest. The fog is so thick that he can barely see the path ahead. He then ordered his army to find a path and kill monsters. Fortunately, he can control his summons freely within a 100-meter range. Otherwise, he'd probably worry about his skeletons getting lost in the fog. Soon, one of his skeletons encounters a monster, a mystery demon, an elite level 8 creature with 3,600 over 3,600 HP, 74 attack, 60 physical defense, 40 magic defense, and the skill Entangle. White Knight feels excited the moment he sees it. Finally, a real target. He immediately orders his minions to attack together. The mystery demon responds by casting Entangle. Thick vines wrap around one skeleton and rip its arms apart. White Knight notes that an elite monster's attack power is definitely no joke. But even so, it can't withstand the sheer number of his minions. He orders all the skeletons to focus their attacks on it. Soon, the system announces the result. After killing the level 8 elite Mist Tree Demon, he gains a 50% level gap bonus and earns plus 60 experience. The Mist Forest is originally a level 5 dungeon, but the Hell difficulty raises monster levels by 3 and turns them all into elite monsters. The experience gain is indeed impressive. Just then, White Knight senses movement behind him. A snake suddenly swings down from a branch. He quickly jumps aside to dodge its attack. The creature is a Mist Tree Python, another level 8 elite monster with 3,000 over 3,000 HP, 108 attack, 52 physical defense, 30 magic defense, and the skill Strangle. These pythons specialize in wrapping their prey tightly. White Knight lifts his staff and fires a burst of blue flame at it. The attack deals 98 and 101 damage. Right after that, his skeletons rush in. The Mist-Tree Python quickly falls. The system announces that he has defeated a level 8 elite Mist-Tree Python, earning another 50% level gap bonus and plus 60 experience. Even though White Knight's spirit attribute is already 3 times higher than that of a normal necromancer, his spells still don't hit as hard as his skeleton army. The monster drops loot, such as a tree python belt, a level 5 leather armor piece. It has black iron grade durability 30/30, plus 9 armor, and plus 2 constitution. When worn, it looks like a giant python wrapped around the waist. White Knight sighs slightly. Too bad it's leather armor, which he can't use. Still, it's worth keeping since it can be sold later for money. With that done, he continues moving forward with his skeleton army. Monsters begin lurking in the surrounding fog, which means, for White Knight, it's harvest time. His minions group together and attack the Mist-Tree demons and Mist-Tree pythons at the same time. It quickly turns into organized chaos. Soon, the system announces that White Knight has reached level 5. His 4 attributes each gain plus 1 point, and he receives plus 1 skill point along with plus 15 free attribute points. White Knight levels up once again. During the grind, he obtains several drops: black iron equipment, a wooden wand, a snakefang short dagger, tree python leather armor, and 2 E-rank skill books, Entangle and Strangle. The wand is somewhat usable for now, but the rest isn't very helpful. He decides he'll upgrade them later and sell them. Looking at his status panel, it now shows he is level 5 with the Necromancer class. His attributes are 51 agility, 108 spirit, 1/1 HP, 6,480 over 6,480 mana, and 409 spell power. His exclusive forbidden trait is promotion. His class skills include Summon Skeleton, E rank, Scorch, E rank, Life Sharing, S rank, and Death Conscription, SS rank. His summon space is 10/20. His weapon is the wooden wand. His class exclusive item is the Death Scripture, and his remaining lifespan is still less than 1 year. The wand's stats are pretty weak though, so he'll need a better weapon eventually. Then he notices something interesting. His Death Scripture has also leveled up. The Death Scripture is a class exclusive item that cannot be dropped, damaged, or traded. Its base attributes now give plus 75 spell power, plus 25 to all attributes, and plus 100% damage against undead creatures. Even his summoned skeletons receive the buff. Additional special effects will unlock once the item reaches level 10. The book is described as a book of rules, something only he can read. Once he meets certain conditions, he can learn exclusive Death Sovereign skills from it. White Knight feels quite satisfied with this reward. He calls all his skeletons together and prepares them for the next fight. With his current equipment and power, he believes he's ready to challenge the boss. So they move deeper into the dungeon. Soon, they encounter 1 silver grade boss along with 2 reinforced elite guards. White Knight can't help but think that hell difficulty really lives up to its name. The boss is the Mist-Tree Python King, a silver grade level 8 monster with 88,000 over 88,000 HP, 327 attack, 136 physical defense, 98 magic defense, and several skills: Strangle, Devour, Venom Spray, and Earthshaker. Beside it stand the Mist-Tree Python Guards, reinforced elite monsters at level 8, each with 8,350 HP, 198 attack, 72 physical defense, 60 magic defense, and the skill Strangle. White Knight studies the situation carefully. The boss alone has over 80,000 HP, and it's protected by 2 guards. For a moment, he wonders if his skeleton army can actually handle it, but in the end, he decides to just try and see what happens. So he orders his minions to charge. His minions charge forward, but the Mist-Tree Python King suddenly opens its mouth and devours one of the skeletons. White Knight immediately realizes the boss's attack power is truly terrifying. Still, even if its damage is high, he believes it won't be able to handle his skeleton C tactic. Soon, 2 more skeletons appear. He orders his minions to slash it aggressively. The skeleton army quickly deals with the Mist-Tree Python Guards. Each guard killed gives him a 50% level gap bonus and plus 180 experience points. With the guards gone, he commands all his little brothers to focus fire on the boss. The skeletons strike the Python King on the head, which only makes it even angrier. White Knight feels a bit disappointed when he sees his own damage numbers. Compared to his skeletons, his attacks look almost embarrassing. The boss turns its attention toward the skeletons. It swallows another skeleton whole, killing it instantly. Then it thrashes its massive body, tearing several skeletons apart. White Knight senses something dangerous. It looks like the boss is about to use one of its major skills. Suddenly, the Python King spits out a green poisonous mist. White Knight is startled. He didn't expect the boss to actually target him directly. The mist rushes toward him and covers his vision, but White Knight takes the hit head-on. Thanks to life sharing, his combined health pool is now well over 100,000 HP. Compared to that, this damage is nothing. Then he counterattacks. Blue flames ignite in his hands as he charges forward. He continuously casts Scorch, while his skeleton army keeps slashing the boss from all sides. Under the constant damage, the massive creature finally collapses. The system announces that he has defeated the level 8 silver grade boss, Mystery Python King. He receives a 50% experience bonus and earns plus 14,400 experience points. White Knight is satisfied with how smoothly the fight went. Then another announcement appears. The system congratulates him for becoming the first player in Novice Village number 9,527 to solo kill a boss. As a reward, he receives 1 basic life soul stone and 1 gold coin. Another notification follows immediately. He is also the first player in Novice Village number 9,527 to solo kill a silver grade boss. This achievement grants him an additional reward of 5 basic life soul stones and 5 gold coins. The system made an announcement in Novice Village number 9527. It declared that White Knight had become the first player to solo kill a silver grade boss. The notice encouraged all players to learn from him so they could earn rich rewards as well. The players could hardly believe it. Some were also curious about who White Knight was and what kind of freakish talent he had awakened. Most of them assumed his talent had to be S rank or even SS rank. Otherwise, there was no way someone could solo kill a silver grade boss this early. One player was furious about the huge gap between them. Another complained that the Myriad Worlds game was terribly unbalanced. They said they could barely defeat small mobs, yet this guy was already solo killing bosses. Someone else sighed and said he never expected to become cannon fodder after transmigrating. From another party, a woman had just learned that solo killing a boss triggers a system announcement. If she had known earlier, she would have let Maple Leaf solo kill that black iron grade boss himself. Her teammate replied that it didn't matter since there would be plenty of chances later. The man who had just answered her was Maple Leaf Xiaoxiao. He told her that White Knight was stronger than him. He admitted that a silver grade boss was still too much for him right now. The woman named Wealth World pointed out that he had already awakened an S-rank talent, yet this White Knight was somehow still stronger than him. That made her wonder if White Knight's talent might actually be SS rank. Maple Leaf answered that it was very likely. Awei, their tank, suggested inviting White Knight to join their team. Cotton Candy, a mage who looked like a small kid, knew how terrifying an SS rank talent could be. She wondered if White Knight would even agree to join them. Wealthy World confidently said she would try anyway. After all, there wasn't a man yet who had refused her invitation. Meanwhile, White Knight suddenly received a flood of friend requests. He had no idea why so many had appeared out of nowhere. He didn't have time to deal with them all, so he decided to reject them. Then he took out a basic life soul stone, a special item. After absorbing it, it increases lifespan by 30 days. However, if he dies, he will lose 1/10 of that lifespan, with a minimum loss of 3 days. He was surprised to see an item that could actually increase lifespan. He decided to promote those stones first. After doing so, he obtained an intermediate life soul stone. This special item increases lifespan by 120 days upon absorption. If he dies, he will lose 1/10 of that lifespan, with a minimum loss of 12 days. He was glad the promotion worked. 6 intermediate stones would equal almost 2 years of life. Getting that much lifespan for free felt strangely addictive. Now he wanted to collect even more life soul stones. The 2 skill books he received were not useful for him. As for the equipment pieces, only the poison ring was somewhat helpful, so he decided to promote it. The promotion succeeded, and he obtained a venomous ring. It was gold grade with 100/100 durability, granting plus 30 spell power, plus 10 agility, and plus 10 spirit. Magic skills now had a chance to inflict 150 poison damage, triggering at most once every 10 seconds. He liked that it had both magic and poison attributes. If his attack wasn't enough, the poison would finish the job. He then noticed how many skeletons had died just fighting a beginner boss. That made him realize something important. His skeletons simply weren't strong enough. Now that he had some gold coins, he considered sublimating the summon skeleton skill to upgrade it further. He chose to upgrade it. The options were Promote, Tier 1, Sublimate, Tier 2, and Cataclysm, Tier 3. Without hesitation, he chose Sublimate. The system informed him that it would cost 5 gold coins to overwrite the previous promotion effects and sublimate the skill. It was painfully expensive, but he knew he could earn more gold later. So he went ahead with the sublimation. The system then announced that his F-rank skill, Summon Small Skeleton, had successfully evolved into the D-rank skill, Summon Skeleton Soldier. This D-rank level 6 active skill allowed him to summon either a skeleton warrior or a skeleton archer to fight for him. The cast time was 3 seconds, the cooldown was 30 seconds, and it cost 200 mana. The skeleton's stats would scale based on the player's spirit attribute. He was very pleased with the skeleton archer. Those 5 gold coins suddenly felt like a great investment, so he summoned them right away. The skeleton archer had 637 strength, 637 constitution, 637 agility, and 6,370 health points with 319 physical defense. It possessed a skill called double shot. At rank E level 6, it could instantly fire 2 arrows, striking the target twice. Each arrow dealt 90% physical damage with a 30-second cooldown. Because it had converted into the archer class, its agility bonus increased significantly. Meanwhile, the skeleton warrior had 637 strength, constitution, and agility, with 956 attack and 319 physical defense. It possessed the skill Heavy Strike. At rank E level 6, it swung its weapon to deliver a heavy blow, dealing 175% physical damage, also with a 30-second cooldown. As a warrior class, its strength bonus increased significantly. Now he could finally say his summons had decent stats. Feeling satisfied, he ordered his minions to continue exploring for him. They scattered throughout the forest. Soon, an elite rank level 8 goblin appeared. It had 2,800 over 2,800 health points, 96 attack, 58 physical defense, 45 magic defense, and a skill called Throw. He immediately ordered the ranged units to focus fire on one target first. Arrows flew straight into the goblin's face. The monster dropped instantly. White Knight received an extra 50% experience bonus, along with plus 60 experience points. He quickly noticed how much faster his farming speed had become. It was clear now, he needed to move to a higher level area if he wanted better gains. Meanwhile, back in the village, players were busy recruiting members for their own teams. Someone suddenly approached them. This man announced that he was preparing to establish the Hegemony Guild. He invited them to join him so they could explore the Myriad Worlds game together. The players immediately felt offended. The guy had just entered the game, yet he was already recruiting people to work for him, even though he wasn't famous at all. The man calmly explained that he possessed an S-rank talent called Born Leader. This talent allowed him to establish a guild for free. Guild members would receive a 20% experience bonus, 20% monster drop bonus, and 20% attack and spell power bonus. And the stronger the guild became overall, the greater the buffs would grow. Hearing that, many players became intrigued. The ability sounded incredibly powerful. Several of them quickly said they wanted to join. The man told them not to rush and to join one by one. But their conversation was suddenly interrupted when they received a server-wide pinned message. The sender was Wealthy World, and the message was directed at White Knight. She asked him to accept her friend request because she had an important matter to discuss. When the players saw this, they immediately started complaining. One of them grumbled that he had worked his butt off killing dozens of monsters and still didn't even have 100 copper coins. Yet this spendthrift casually spent 10 gold coins just to send a message. Everyone became curious about who this person was. After all, sending a server-wide pinned message cost 10 gold coins, which was an insane amount right now. The commotion quickly spread through the village. Some wondered if Wealthy World was truly that rich. The man who planned to establish the guild also started wondering where she got so many gold coins. At the same time, he became curious about White Knight. The name alone made him want to see how strong this person really was. White Knight saw the message. Since Wealthy World had spent 10 gold coins just to find him, it was obvious she had serious money. So he decided to meet her. After they became friends, Wealthy World immediately invited him to join her team. She promised to cover all his equipment and skills, plus give him 100 gold coins up front. Getting 100 gold coins right away sounded incredibly generous. White Knight couldn't help wondering how she had become this rich when everyone had only just left the novice village. So he asked her why he should trust her. She replied that money was just a number to her. As long as he signed a contract to join her team, there would be plenty of money waiting for him. And if he still didn't believe her, he could simply look at her SSS rank exclusive skill, God of Wealth. This talent had 3 effects. The first was Money Tree, which allowed her to shake a money tree once a day and randomly receive 1 to 999 gold coins, with a chance to obtain special treasures as well. The second effect was Wealth Rolls In, which increased the total currency she carried by 1% every day. The third was Income Only, No Outgo, meaning she would not drop any gold coins or items when she died. After hearing all that, White Knight realized that this God of Wealth talent was simply too heaven-defying. White Knight realized that with this God of Wealth talent, making money would be as easy as lying down and printing gold. But teaming up sounded troublesome to him, and it would also make it easier for others to discover his secrets. He decided to forget about it. In the early stages, leveling alone felt much safer, so he replied that he preferred to act alone. Wealthy World was offended that he actually dared to refuse her. Maple Leaf Xiaoxiao asked her if White Knight had refused to join them. She answered that White Knight preferred to act alone. Ah Wei suggested they forget about him for now, since they could just grind monsters themselves. Cotton Candy replied that it might be possible, but without good equipment, their grinding speed would be much slower. But then Wealthy World noticed that White Knight had sent another message. White Knight proposed a trade. She asked for more details, and he explained that he had some unused equipment and skill books that her team could probably use, and he was willing to sell them. She asked how much he wanted because she was planning to buy everything. White Knight replied that the value would be greater than she could imagine. He said he would notify her when he finished his current business. She simply replied that she would wait for him. Then she told Maple Leaf that he would soon have top-tier equipment. Ah Wei was happy to hear that because powerful gear would greatly increase their grinding speed. Their party soon encountered a wild boar leader. It was a level 5 bronze grade boss with 23,800/23,800 health points, 205 attack, 81 physical defense, 62 magic defense, and skills like Tear, Barbaric Charge, and Wild Trample. Wealthy World asked Maple Leaf if he was confident he could solo kill it. He replied that it wouldn't be a problem. She told everyone to hand their life recovery potions to Maple Leaf. Then she instructed him to leave the party. Ah Wei was ordered to stand guard and make sure no one interfered with Maple Leaf. Their goal was simple: secure the system announcement. After that, they told Maple Leaf to go. He moved in. The wild boar leader attacked, dealing -986 damage. Maple Leaf slipped behind it and launched his attack. The wild boar leader swung its spiked back toward him. He said the monster was pretty strong, but it wasn't fast enough. Wealthy World commented that Maple Leaf had plenty of combat experience, so solo killing the boss shouldn't be a problem. Meanwhile, White Knight killed a level 8 silver grade boss, the Goblin Leader, earning an extra 50% experience bonus and plus 14,400 experience points. Having such a large group of minions made things incredibly convenient. He could move through the mist forest almost without resistance. The system notified him that his level increased to 6, giving him plus 1 point to all 4 attributes and plus 15 free attribute points. The only thing he could complain about was how annoying it was to pick up all the loot. One of the items he picked up reinforced Bone Shield, but with life diversion, that skill was useless to him. The Mist Cloak had the effect of lowering aggro, but it was honestly just too ugly to wear. It was level 5, gold grade, with 100/100 durability, plus 28 physical defense, plus 20 magic defense, plus 10 constitution, and plus 10 spirit. After equipping it, it lowered the user's presence slightly, reducing the chance of attracting monster aggro. Another item caught his attention, an emblem with excellent attributes. It was level 5, gold grade, with 100/100 durability. It increased health by plus 200, mana by plus 400, and spell critical chance by plus 5%. Whenever his spell landed a critical hit, he would gain a buff that increased spirit by plus 20 for 10 seconds, though the effect could not stack. He equipped it immediately. Suddenly, a skeleton came running toward him. It looked badly injured and had lost a large amount of health. He wondered how this had caused the king's territory to appear. The system suddenly sent another notification. A large number of skeleton soldiers had caused the Goblin King to recall long-buried memories, triggering a hidden plot. The Goblin King had fallen into a state of madness, increasing all attributes by 50%. The Mist Forest exit had been sealed, and the only way to leave the dungeon was by killing the Goblin King. To trigger the hidden plot completion, he had to kill the Goblin King within 2 minutes. White Knight quickly summoned more skeletons to prepare for the battle. The Goblin King roared in anger that someone dared to invade his territory. It declared that it would smash his rotten bones into pieces. The Goblin King, Regu, was now in a special state where all attributes increased by 50%. It was a level 8 gold grade boss with 286,218 over 327,000 health points, 843 attack, 312 physical defense, and 270 magic defense. Its skills included Thunder Strike, Trample, Heroic Leap, Summon Goblin Warrior, and Berserk. Regu's long-buried painful memories had driven him into madness. The system note added that even if White Knight died and revived, Regu would continue hunting him. White Knight knew that killing it within 2 minutes would be difficult, especially with over 300,000 health points. The boss had massive health, but White Knight knew something important. It still couldn't handle the sheer number of his minions, so there was no reason he couldn't defeat it. The Goblin King charged toward the group of filthy, rotting bones. It snarled that just smelling their scent made it want to vomit. White Knight admitted that the boss dealt serious damage. A normal level 5 player would have been instantly killed. Too bad for the boss, it had run into him. The Goblin King growled in annoyance when it realized he had tried to sneak up on it. Meanwhile, the skeleton archer continued firing arrows and dealing steady damage. The Goblin King finally decided to target the archer, and that was exactly what White Knight wanted. The Goblin King then summoned the warriors of its race, ordering them to smash those filthy bones into fragments for their king. Goblin warriors began pouring out of a portal. They were also in a madness state, increasing all their attributes by 50%. Each one had 13,500/13,500 health points, 279 attack, 105 physical defense, and 93 magic defense. Their skill was Powerful Strike. White Knight was slightly taken aback. He could already tell that this fight was about to get tricky. The Goblin King grew furious at this necromancer. White Knight had already wiped out many of his clansmen in the Mist Forest, and the king had no intention of letting him escape. It roared and ordered its warriors to crush him and his minions. The Goblin King slammed its weapon into the ground, creating a powerful shockwave. Fortunately, White Knight managed to step aside just in time. Even so, he complained that the hit still hurt quite a bit. Luckily, he was sharing health with his minions, so the damage wasn't too dangerous. He quickly summoned more skeletons and ordered them to deal with the smaller goblins first. The skeletons rushed forward and began cutting down several goblin warriors. Then he commanded the archer skeletons to rain arrows down on them. The Goblin King watched as more of his army fell, but it refused to be defeated. It roared that it would never become a slave again. At that moment, Goblin King Reggie entered a berserk state. His attack power increased by 50%, his attack speed increased by 50%, but both his physical and magic defenses dropped by 50%. White Knight simply looked at the raging boss and called it a noob. Suddenly, a system announcement rang out. Maple Leaf Xiaoxiao had become the first player to solo kill a bronze-grade boss. White Knight realized the first kill announcement had been stolen, but he didn't let it bother him. He wasn't going to lose sight of the big reward over a small title. Instead, he ordered all his skeletons to charge at once. Their overwhelming numbers finally brought the Goblin King down. The system announced that he had killed the level 8 gold-grade boss, Goblin King Reggie, granting an extra 50% experience bonus and plus 43,200 experience points. With that, he reached level 7, gaining +1 to all 4 attributes, +1 skill point, and +15 free attribute points. He also became the first player in Novice Village number 9527 to solo kill a gold-grade boss. As a reward, he received 12 basic life soul stones and 12 gold coins. He looked around for any monster drops, but strangely, there was nothing. Meanwhile, a man wearing full armor had just obtained a treasure that increased his lifespan. His guild members quickly flattered him, saying he was the #1 expert in Novice Village number 9527. Suddenly, a system announcement appeared. Maple Leaf Xiaoxiao had become the first player to solo kill a bronze-grade boss. One of his guild members immediately said Maple Leaf must have just gotten lucky. The armored man declared that he would find a gold-grade boss himself to prove who the real expert was. Right then, another announcement appeared, this time saying that White Knight had become the first player to solo kill a gold-grade boss. The man in the full armor suit frowned and wondered if White Knight had awakened an SSS rank talent. On the other side of the forest, Maple Leaf Xiaoxiao commented that White Knight was truly terrifying. Wealthy World told him it was fine. The Myriad Worlds game had only just begun, so there was still plenty of time to catch up. Maple Leaf Xiaoxiao then told the group that they should go check out the first dungeon now. Back to White Knight, the system notified him that because he killed Goblin King Reggie within 2 minutes, he had successfully triggered the hidden plot called Reggie's Nightmare, and the Mist Forest dungeon difficulty had increased to Disaster grade, which was even higher than Hell difficulty. Suddenly, a thick mist flowed out of the Goblin King's mouth. White Knight frowned, wondering what was going on. The mist began showing him visions. He saw goblins living their lives, but then they met a tragic fate. They were imprisoned and burned alive. After that, one of the skeletons he had summoned appeared in the vision. Apparently, that skeleton had once been a goblin when it was alive. Then he noticed something strange. The Goblin King's body began glowing brightly, and it suddenly transformed into Skeleton King, Reggie. It had entered an insane state, with all attributes increased by 50%. It was now level 10 and ranked as a dark gold grade boss. It had 1,800,000/1,800,000 health points, 4,215 attack power, 780 physical defense, and 675 magic defense. Its skills included Summon Skeleton Warrior, Summon Skeleton Archer, Summon Skeleton Mage, Aura of the Dead, Thunder Heavy Strike, Trample of the Dead, Leap of the Dead, Berserk, and Death Aura Surround. According to the system, this creature was one of the most successful works of necromancers in ancient times. Skeleton King Reggie realized that in the end, he still couldn't escape the fate of becoming undead. He called upon his warriors to fight for him. Their souls rose from their bodies and merged together to form his blade. White Knight stared at the terrifying monster and couldn't believe that something like this could appear in a novice village. It unleashed lightning into the sky. Along with it, his summons appeared. starting with a level 10 skeleton warrior. It had 60,000/60,000 health points, 780 attack power, 264 physical defense, and 216 magic defense, along with a level 10 heavy strike skill. This was a heroic warrior boosted by the aura of the dead, increasing all its attributes by 20%. Another summon was a level 10 skeleton mage with 24,000 over 24,000 health points, 840 spell power, 100 physical defense, and 240 magic defense, and a level 10 fireball skill. This powerful mage was also boosted by the aura of the dead, raising all its attributes by 20%. There was also a level 10 skeleton archer with 36,000/36,000 health points, 624 attack power, 160 physical defense, 120 magic defense, and a level 10 double shot skill. This precise archer was likewise boosted by the aura of the dead, increasing all its attributes by 20%. The combat power of those 6 summons was already catching up to the strength of his 20 minions. The Skeleton King clearly wanted all his enemies to join the undead army. White Knight felt overwhelmed. The enemy's attack power was way too high, and he honestly had no clear idea how he was supposed to win this fight. The system suddenly gave him a warning. The hidden plot, Reggie's Nightmare, had officially begun, and Novice Village Protection was now disabled. If he died, he would lose 10% of his lifespan, with a minimum loss of 10 years. Hearing that nearly made his heart stop. Even if he absorbed all his life soul stones, it still wouldn't be enough to cover a single deduction. For a moment, he worried that his journey in the Myriad Worlds game might end right here. Skeleton King Reggie then unleashed Thunder Heavy Strike, smashing several of his minions in one blow. White Knight was also caught in the attack. Gritting his teeth, he ordered the archer skeletons to aim at those scums and focus their fire. White Knight realized that with his current mana, he could only summon 20 skeleton warriors. He knew that wouldn't be enough. The enemy's defense was simply too high. He needed to upgrade the skill to another tier. There was no safe option left. He decided to risk everything. First, he would eat the stones and see how much lifespan the Cataclysm promotion would cost. He successfully absorbed several intermediate life soul stones, bringing his lifespan to 6 years. The system notified him that once the skill underwent Cataclysm to C rank, 3 branches would appear: Summon Skeleton Warrior, Summon Skeleton Archer, and Summon Skeleton Mage. He needed to choose which path to evolve. Without hesitation, he chose Skeleton Warrior, since it was the safest option due to their massive health pool. The system notified him that he had lost 5 years of lifespan. His F-rank skill, Summon Small Skeleton, had successfully mutated into the C-rank skill, Summon Skeleton Warrior. The skill was now C-rank, level 8, with a 3-second cast time, 30-second cooldown, and 300 mana cost. The Skeleton Warrior's stats scaled with the player's spirit attribute. The mutation effect was incredible. The Skeleton Warrior's maximum health increased to 500%, while attack power increased to 100%. The bonus was so outrageous for a C-rank skill that White Knight couldn't help wondering if the system had lost its mind. He immediately summoned more Skeleton Warriors to match Skeleton King Reggie. Each Skeleton Warrior had 930 strength, 930 constitution, 930 agility, and 69,750/69,750 health points with 3,720 attack power and 930 physical defense. Its skill. Heavy Strike was at level 8, allowing it to swing its weapon and deal 185% physical damage with a 30-second cooldown. The mutation bonuses pushed it even further. Maximum health increased by 500%, attack power increased by 100%, and all attribute bonuses were significantly boosted. The Skeleton Warriors charged and attacked Skeleton King Reggie, while Reggie commanded its undead subordinates to hold the line. White Knight's skeleton slowly began dealing steady damage. He continued summoning more warriors. Then the Skeleton King entered a berserk state. Its attack power increased by 50%, attack speed increased by 50%, but both its defenses dropped by 50%. Seeing their defenses drop, White Knight smirked. In his eyes, they had just sped up their own deaths. He immediately ordered all his summons to focus fire in one final wave. The Skeleton King Reggie's health bar dropped rapidly. Soon after, the system notification appeared. White Knight had killed it. He gained an additional 50% experience bonus and plus 270,000 experience points. With that, he reached level 8, gaining +1 to all 4 attributes, +1 skill point, and plus 15 free attribute points. But with 270,000 experience, he knew it wouldn't stop there. The system soon confirmed that he had reached level 9. Another notification appeared. He had become the first player in Novice Village number 9, 527, to solo kill a dark gold grade boss. His reward was 40 intermediate life soul stones and 60 gold coins. The achievement was also broadcast to the entire village. He then received another system message congratulating him for achieving the first clear of the Mist Forest in Novice Village number 9527. His reward was 5 random level 1 attribute gems and 5 gold coins. Just from this round of Cataclysm upgrades, he had already burned through over 13 years of lifespan, but the rewards kept coming. Since he had also completed the first clear of the Hell difficulty Mist Forest, he received 20 intermediate life soul stones and 20 gold coins. Still, White Knight frowned, because technically, he had cleared a disaster level dungeon, not just Hell difficulty. At the Mist Forest entrance, the man in full armor continued recruiting players. Several people nearby showed interest in joining his group. Soon everyone's attention shifted to another group walking out of the forest, all wearing full sets of equipment. Since the leader was Wealthy World, the sight wasn't too surprising. Everyone already knew her gear must have cost a fortune. Still, they couldn't help wondering just how rich she really was. The man who had been recruiting earlier approached them and said he had heard about their team. They politely replied that they were far inferior to this man, Guildmaster Hongtu. Hearing that made Hongtu laugh proudly. Since everyone was already gathered there, he suggested making a bet. Wealthy World raised an eyebrow and asked what he wanted to bet on. Hongtu proposed that they bet on who could achieve the first clear of the Mist Forest. Wealthy World asked what the stakes would be. Hongtu replied that his talent and her financial power were a perfect match. If he won the first clear, he wanted their team to join his hegemony guild. She then asked what they would gain if they cleared it first. Hongtu answered that in the future, the hegemony guild would help them accomplish one request with their full strength. Wealthy World immediately bargained, saying that one favor wasn't enough. She wanted 3 instead. After a brief pause, the deal was agreed upon. But suddenly a system announcement appeared stating that White Knight had already taken the first clear of the Mist Forest. Everyone stood there in shock. Guildmaster Hongtu's expression darkened. This White Knight had completely ruined their bet and made them look foolish. He told Wealthy World that since the normal difficulty first clear was already gone, they might as well aim for hard mode instead. But then several more announcements appeared one after another. First, White Knight had taken the first clear of Hell difficulty in the Mist Forest. Second, he had become the first player to solo kill a dark gold grade boss. And third, a Blue Star Zone announcement congratulated the Divine Dragon Empire player White Knight for becoming the first player in the entire Blue Star Zone to solo clear a disaster level dungeon. Guildmaster Hongtu could only shout that this was absolutely outrageous. Without another word, they stepped into the portal. Cotton Candy asked Wealthy World if they weren't going in as well. Wealthy World calmly replied that there was no need to rush anymore, since the first clear was already gone anyway. She said she wanted to wait a little longer. Meanwhile, in the Divine Dragon Empire's Novice Village number 8888 inside the Hell level Mist Forest, a man with long black hair was fighting the Goblin King. He calmly deflected the monster's attacks with his sword. This man was 3-foot Sword Edge. He had also received the system notifications, which made him curious about what kind of talent White Knight had awakened. After all, he had been fighting the Goblin King for quite a while already, yet he still hadn't managed to bring it down. At the same time, in Divine Dragon Empire Novice Village number 9526, a blonde man commented that the name White Knight sounded familiar. The woman beside him asked why he thought that. The woman was Ruyan, and the man asked her if it might be someone who had courted her before. She asked him if he was planning to give her away again. Zhao Shu pulled her into a hug and told her not to feel wronged. He pointed out that when she followed Mu Bai back then, she had still enjoyed several years of glory and wealth. If the Myriad Worlds game hadn't appeared, he said he would have already reached the peak of life by now. Ruyan replied that the name White Knight reminded her of someone. Then she suddenly remembered a player who used that same name when he played games in the past. Zhao Shu immediately asked who it was. She answered that it was Su Mu Bai. Shu quickly shook his head and said that was impossible. Su Mu Bai should already be dead. After all, he had personally pulled the plug himself. Besides, Mu Bai couldn't possibly be the only person who would choose a name like White Knight. He dismissed the idea as nothing more than a coincidence. He even added that if it really was that kid, it would actually make things easier. Zhao Shu knew that Mu Bai had always liked Ruyan, so she could simply seduce him again, and everything would fall into place. Ruyan blushed slightly, but deep down she was completely confident in her charm, and honestly, she didn't really care who White Knight was. The system congratulated White Knight for becoming the first player in the Blue Star Zone to solo clear a disaster-level dungeon. His rewards were a Class S rank skill book and 1 epic-grade piece of equipment. Just as he expected from a disaster-level dungeon, the rewards were incredibly generous. Now, even with only 1 drop of blood, he could definitely summon a full blood bank. He pressed the backpack button on the screen. And that activated Siphon, a skill that lets him absorb death energy from corpses and store it. A single siphon can target up to 5 bodies. The cooldown is 30 seconds. It costs nothing to use. The maximum range is 50 meters, and his stored death energy currently sits at 0/80. The feedback skill instantly restores his own health or mana, or it can be used to strengthen one of his summons. The cooldown is 30 seconds. It consumes 1 to 80 death energy. 1 death energy restores 100 health or 100 mana. 1 death energy can also boost a target's main attribute by 0.5% for 60 seconds. Now, he would never have to worry about mana consumption ever again. At the moment, he could only choose the free promotion option. The system confirmed the cost-free promotion of the skill book Death Siphon Feedback to Tier 1. He confirmed it and learned the new skill, Death Siphon Feedback. He tested it on the enemy and successfully siphoned 320 death energy from the corpse of the Dark Gold boss, Skeleton King Reiji. But the system soon notified him that his stored death energy had already reached the limit. If he wanted to siphon more, he would need to consume some of it first. He didn't expect the amount to be that high. He guessed it was because the boss had originally been an undead creature, so the death energy inside it was much richer. He also received an item called the Whisperer of the Dead Robe, a top cloth armor. It works from level 10 to level 60, scaling with the player's level. The item upgrades every 5 levels, with a maximum upgrade at level 60. It is an epic grade item. He suspected this might be the first epic grade equipment in the entire Blue Star Zone. Unfortunately, it still needed appraisal, and appraisal fees were never cheap. For now, he decided to keep it. He suddenly realized something. He rummaged through the remains of Skeleton King Reiji to see what else had dropped. His plan was to pack everything and send it to Wealthy World later. After all, he had technically killed the boss twice, so he expected it to drop some good stuff. Suddenly, a massive explosion of loot appeared. He obtained 10 gold coins, 38 silver coins, a plus 10 attribute gem, a plus 3 critical gem, and 5 gold grade equipment pieces. There was also a dark gold grade item called the Necklace of the Dead, along with Boots of the Shadow, heavy bone armor, and a giant bone sword. In addition, he received several C-rank skill books such as Summon Skeleton Champion, Summon Skeleton Archer, and Summon Skeleton Mage. There were also B-rank skill books like Aura of the Dead and Thunder Heavy Strike. On top of that, several dark gold grade materials dropped, including 10 Death Energy Bones, 10 Soul Remnants, and Hale's Crystal Ball. Since he already possessed the 3 skill books, Summon Skeleton Champion, Summon Skeleton Archer, and Summon Skeleton Mage, the system asked if he wanted to fuse the 3 into a new skill called Summon Advanced Skeleton. He didn't even know that skill books could be fused like this. He went ahead and fused them, learning the new skill Summon Advanced Skeleton. The skill was C rank, level 1. With it, he could summon a Skeleton Champion, Skeleton Archer, or Skeleton Mage to fight for him. The cast time was 3 seconds, the cooldown was 30 seconds, and it cost 300 mana. The skill also had special traits. The first trait increased the Skeleton Champion's health by 500% and its attack by 100%. The second and third traits were still locked. He guessed those were for the Skeleton Archer and Skeleton Mage, meaning the skill would need another promotion to unlock them. The system then prompted him to select a promotion tier for the Summon Advanced Skeleton skill. A normal promotion cost nothing. Sublimation into the A-rank skill. Summon Elite Skeleton would cost 10,000 gold coins, while the final Cataclysm evolution into the S-rank skill, Summon Skeleton Legion, would cost 1,000 years of lifespan. White Knight chose the direct promotion. Just like that, his C-rank Summon Advanced Skeleton skill was promoted to B-rank, level 1. A blue orb suddenly appeared, and he wondered what it was. The system asked if he wanted to accept the quest, Hale's Legacy. It was an epic grade quest with extreme difficulty, and the system advised him to consider it carefully. If he accepted, Hale's crystal ball would have part of its seal lifted and temporarily become his equipment. If he refused, the crystal ball would break through the void and leave, searching for the next destined person. He wondered if this was the harvest from the hidden plot. He was also curious if the quest item itself could be promoted, so he tried it. The system then asked if he wanted to accept Dylan's Sorrow. It was a legendary grade quest with difficulty described as beyond imagination, and the system again warned him to think carefully. If he accepted, Dylan's crystal ball would partially unseal and temporarily become his equipment. If he refused, it would also break through the void and leave to find the next destined person. He chose to accept. Since his level was still too low, the system told him to reach level 30 within 1 month to begin the first phase of the quest. If he failed to start the quest in time, he would lose Dylan's crystal ball. Dylan's crystal ball would reveal its true name after being fully unsealed. It starts at level 0 and can reach a maximum of level 200. It is a legendary grade item with durability 1000 over 1000. Its basic attributes were already impressive, plus 50 spell power, plus 20 to all attributes, plus 1000 health, and plus 2000 mana. Its effects were also powerful. The first effect increased spell critical rate by 30% and gave 50% critical damage. The second and third effects were still sealed, and their abilities were unknown. They would unlock after entering the first phase of the quest. White Knight especially liked how strong the spell crit bonus was. He loved how the harvest this time had gone far beyond his expectations. With everything collected, he finally set off to meet Wealthy World. At the entrance of the dungeon, Cotton Candy asked Wealthy World when they were going in. The sun was already setting, and Hegemony had entered the dungeon ages ago. Wealthy World replied that they should wait a little longer. Then White Knight finally came out, and she greeted him right away. White Knight looked surprised that they were actually waiting for him. She asked if he had brought the items. She also asked if they needed to change locations for the trade. He told her there was no need, and they could complete the trade right there. He then summoned his skeletons, which instantly spooked everyone nearby. Wealthy World said his strength was truly terrifying. In her mind, she was already certain that he must be an SSS rank talent player. White Knight told her that her talent was the one people would really envy. He told her that he had a lot of items, and asked if she could really eat the whole batch alone. She confidently assured him that it wouldn't be a problem. He then took out all the items, and everyone was stunned. Cotton Candy was especially happy because there were so many skill books and they were D rank. She had never even heard of some of them before. Ah Wei was thrilled by the sheer amount of equipment. Wealthy World simply told White Knight to name his price, and she would buy everything. He replied that Black Iron grade equipment cost 5 silver, Bronze grade cost 20 silver, and D-rank skill books cost 20 gold. She had no problem with the price, and immediately threw him the coins. He accepted them. After that, she asked him to bring out the real good stuff. He calmly replied that he had it. He dumped everything out again, and their jaws dropped when they saw the gold-grade equipment, the C-rank skill book, and several other high-quality items. White Knight pointed out that it looked like her money might not be enough. She admitted that they couldn't afford all of it right now. He told her that he could hand it over first, and they could settle the remaining payment tomorrow. He wasn't worried about her running away with the goods since they could simply sign a system trade contract. Since he was being so straightforward, she decided not to act polite anymore and asked him to state the total price. He said everything else was negotiable, but the skill book in his hand alone was worth 500 gold coins. It was the Resurrection Skill Book. It was C rank, had no level requirement, and was an active skill. It allowed the user to revive a target player outside of combat while also reducing their death penalty by 50%. The cast range was 50 meters, the cast time was 5 seconds, and the cooldown was 60 seconds. It consumed 300 mana, and only someone with a priest-class profession could learn it. Cotton Candy was overjoyed when she saw it. Wealthy World agreed to the deal and promised to pay the remaining gold tomorrow. White Knight remembered that the first effect of the God of Wealth talent allowed the user to shake the money tree once a day, randomly obtaining 1 to 999 gold coins. Her confidence in being able to pay 500 gold tomorrow must come from the other 2 effects of that powerful talent. He also remembered that their first kill of the bronze grade boss had rewarded them with 2 life soul stones. So he asked if they wanted to make another deal. He could guarantee that they would take the first clear of the nightmare difficulty mist forest and also gain the strength needed to grind the hell difficulty. However, his condition was simple. He wanted the life soul stones from the mist forest first clear, along with the ones they currently had. Wealthy World and Maple Leaf Xiaoxiao looked at each other, then both agreed to the deal. In the dungeon, while everyone else was busy fighting monsters, White Knight was just chilling. He kept receiving notifications about monsters being killed and the experience he gained from it. Even with only 1 drop of blood, life was still sweet, and his leveling speed wasn't slowed down at all. The system notified him that he had reached level 9. He gained +1 attribute, +1 skill point, and +15 free attribute points. At the same time, he wondered where the appraiser had gone. He had run all that way just to find the appraiser and identify his equipment, yet he didn't even see a shadow of the guy. He couldn't understand why a perfectly good appraiser loved painting so much. Instead of staying in the shop and doing his job, the guy ran off to the grasslands to sketch scenery. Just then, the system suddenly notified him that his skeleton champion had died. The Cataclysm trait was triggered. His skeleton champion resurrected in the summon space with full status. However, the skeleton champion could not trigger the resurrection effect again for 60 minutes. He didn't expect it to be killed instantly. The skeleton champion had nearly 150,000 health points, yet it was still killed in a single moment. He wondered if the appraiser had done it. If he had known that a non-player character could be this strong, he would have definitely saved more of his lifespan earlier. While White Knight was checking below the cliff, someone suddenly appeared behind him and said he wasn't bad for someone who could summon so many piles of broken bones. This man was Huai Jian, the appraiser and painter of Novice Village number 9527. His level and health points were unknown. White Knight immediately noticed his terrifying speed. Jian said he rarely came out in such a good mood to sketch scenery, yet that kid's pile of bones had completely ruined it. He told White Knight to speak and asked how he planned to compensate. White Knight asked if paying money would be acceptable. Jian took the pouch and asked if he really looked like someone who needed money. Still, he wasn't unreasonable. He said he would charge 100 coins, and White Knight could also take the painting. After all, his work wasn't something just anyone could get their hands on, so the kid should actually be grateful. White Knight opened the painting and silently thought that even a 3-year-old could probably draw better. Jian noticed his expression, and a dangerous aura immediately spread around him. White Knight quickly clarified that he had misunderstood. He explained that he simply wanted to calm his mind and wash his hands first, so he could properly appreciate the insights Jian had poured into the painting. That answer pleased Jian. He said the kid wasn't that bad after all. Since he happened to be in a good mood, he asked if White Knight had anything that needed appraisal, because he would do it for free. White Knight immediately thanked him. Jian inspected the equipment and commented that White Knight's strength wasn't bad, and his luck was pretty good too. Then he muttered that for 100 coins he had appraised 4 items, which meant he had actually lost big this time. Jian chanted a spell, and the details of the equipment appeared. The first item was the Shadow Boots. They were plate armor footwear, level 10, and classified as a dark gold grade item. Durability was 200 over 200. The requirements were 80 strength and 50 constitution. The stats included plus 75 physical defense, plus 50 magic defense, plus 800 health, plus 20 strength, plus 20 constitution, plus 10 agility, and plus 10% movement speed. The attached skill was Shadow Step, allowing the wearer to fade into the shadows. Movement speed increased by 60%, and damage taken was reduced by 10%. The effect lasted 30 seconds, with a 10-minute cooldown. If he equipped it, he would also automatically learn Ghost Step Dance. The second item was the Heavy Bone Armor, used for the upper body. It was plate armor, level 10, and upgradable 3 over 3. This was also a dark gold grade item with durability 200 over 200. The requirements were 100 strength and 80 constitution. The armor granted plus 180 physical defense, plus 120 magic defense, plus 1,200 health, plus 25 strength, and plus 25 constitution. It also reduced physical damage by 100 points. The attached skill was Bone Armor, which allowed the wearer to summon bones to protect the body. When activated, the reduction and reflection effects of the Heavy Bone Armor increased by 300%. The effect lasted 30 seconds, with a 10-minute cooldown. As part of the bone set, 1/2, it also granted plus 10% attack and plus 10% physical defense. The third item was the Heavy Bone Sword, a 2-handed weapon at level 10, also upgradable 3/3 and classified as a dark gold grade item. Its durability was 200 over 200, and the strength requirement was 120. The weapon granted plus 288 attack and plus 50 strength, and its attacks dealt 30% splash damage. The attached skill was Powerful Strike, giving attacks a chance to deal triple damage. It was also part of the bone set, 1 over 2. The last item with full details was the Necklace of the Dead. It was a level 10 dark gold grade necklace with durability 200 over 200. The requirement was 100 spirit. It granted plus 80 spell power, plus 500 health, plus 1,000 mana, plus 30 spirit, plus 10 constitution, and plus 10 agility. Its attacks could apply a curse effect, reducing the target's dual defenses by 100 points. Summoned creatures could also trigger this effect. The attached skill was the Dead, which reduced fear-type negative status effects on the wearer by 50%. Jian told him that under normal circumstances, just one of those items would cost 100 gold to appraise. That meant White Knight had already gotten a huge bargain. He warned him to keep that pile of broken bones away from him and not disturb his sketching again. White Knight then asked him to wait for a moment. Jian was getting annoyed. He asked if White Knight still had more dark gold equipment to appraise. Deep down, he regretted agreeing to do the appraisal for free. It really felt like he had lost big this time. To his surprise, the kid actually had epic grade equipment as well. White Knight simply said he had just been lucky. The item was the Robes of the Dead's Whisper. White Knight took this opportunity to have it appraised for free, since the dark gold appraisal fee earlier had already been painfully expensive. Jian kept his word and said the appraisal would indeed be free, and he wouldn't take any money from him. However, his appraisal technique level was too low, so he couldn't appraise that item at all. White Knight was shocked to hear that. Jian argued that he was only a part-time appraiser in a novice village, so it was perfectly reasonable that he couldn't appraise epic-grade equipment. When White Knight thought about it, the old man's explanation actually made sense. So Jian offered to teach him an appraisal technique instead. For White Knight, this was actually great news. If he learned it, he wouldn't have to spend money on appraisal fees in the future. However, Jian said he would need to pay tuition first. White Knight asked how much it would cost. Jian raised 5 fingers, so White Knight guessed it meant 500 coins. Jian confirmed he was correct, but it wasn't 500 gold coins. It was 500 ancient gold coins. Ancient gold coins were part of the first batch of coins ever minted. They had long stopped circulating and technically had no official value. But to certain ancient collectors, their value far exceeded ordinary gold coins. White Knight suddenly remembered that when copper coins were upgraded, they became ancient copper coins. And he actually had some right inside his backpack. That made him wonder, if gold coins were upgraded, would they also become ancient gold coins? At that moment, the system notified him that Jian had added him as a friend. He had also received a mission called Collect Ancient Gold Coins. The task was to gather 500 ancient gold coins for Jian. The reward would be the subclass skill, Basic Appraisal Technique. Jian was about to leave when White Knight suddenly asked him to wait again. That only made Jian more annoyed. But when he turned around, he saw White Knight holding a huge bag of coins. His jaw dropped when he saw just how many ancient coins were inside. White Knight then asked calmly if Jian could now teach him the appraisal technique. Jian was clearly pleased. He admitted the kid had given him a very pleasant surprise. He handed over the skill book, and just like that, White Knight completed the hidden mission and received his reward. Jian left immediately, but before going, he told White Knight to come find him again once he had 10,000 ancient gold coins. If he did, Jian promised he would give him another surprise. With that, White Knight received a new mission called Collect Ancient Gold Coins 2. This time, he had to gather 10,000 ancient gold coins, though the reward was still unknown. White Knight found him interesting, especially since the old man promised to give him a big surprise. A basic appraisal technique obviously couldn't satisfy him, so he promoted it and obtained the intermediate appraisal technique. After learning this subclass skill, he earned the title Intermediate Appraiser. His current technique proficiency was 0/1000. As the skill proficiency increased, the success rate of his appraisal would improve slightly. The success rate for dark gold grade equipment was 60%, while epic grade equipment only had a 10% success rate. The cast time was 5 seconds, the cooldown was 60 seconds, and it consumed 1,000 mana. Subclass skills did not occupy the player's skill slots. Now he began appraising his item. But it failed. After all, the success rate was only 10%. It made him wonder if his luck was really that bad. He kept trying, and the system kept telling him the appraisal had failed. He stayed stubborn and continued until he eventually got tired. Suddenly, he received a notification that a wild treasure chest had been discovered. Today had truly been a day full of surprises. If the treasure chest was guarded by a high-level monster, then he had clearly hit the jackpot. He decided to go check it out. The treasure chest was guarded by wolves. He was glad to see that things were exactly as he expected. He called the boys over to get to work. The skeletons immediately charged the monsters. The large wolf monster let out a loud howl, calling more members of its pack. White Knight didn't mind. When it came to numbers, he welcomed the challenge. The skeletons cut down the wolves one after another. The large wolf monster struggled in pain before finally breathing its last. White Knight bragged that he hadn't even finished lining up his skeletons yet, and the monster was already dead. The system notified him that he had killed a level 10 reinforced elite monster, Prairie Vicious Wolf, granting an extra 50% level gap bonus and plus 450 experience points. He had also killed a level 10 silver grade boss, Prairie Wolf King, gaining another 50% level gap bonus and plus 36,000 experience points. The loot included 1 gold coin and 38 silver coins. He also obtained a level 1 agility gem and 1 basic skill book. His level increased to level 10, granting plus 1 to 4 attributes, plus 1 skill point, and plus 15 free attribute points. He also became the first player in the Myriad Worlds game Blue Star Zone to reach level 10, earning the title Far Ahead. White Knight then became curious about something. Could wild treasure chests also be promoted? So he tried it. The promotion succeeded. White Knight opened the chest. He obtained a gold-grade equipment called the Withered Wood Staff. There was also a gold-grade treasure map. He felt slightly disappointed that there were only 2 items inside. However, the treasure map quickly caught his interest. According to the map's guidance, it would lead him to a gold-grade treasure chest. The system asked if he wanted to use the treasure map. Once used, the treasure hunting route would be marked on the system map. The destination coordinates of this treasure map were located outside the novice village. The system then notified him that his level had reached the novice village limit. He needed to find the village chief and report to his affiliated city. Otherwise, he would no longer gain experience points. That was when he realized that players had to leave the novice village once they reached level 10. He decided to find the village chief first, and while he was at it, he casually promoted the treasure map. After the promotion, it became a dark, gold-grade treasure map. The route immediately appeared on his map, and the destination coordinates were now located outside Jingu City. The system instructed him to go there to begin the treasure hunt. The route was extremely far, and it would require him to travel abroad. For now, he accepted that he wouldn't be able to get it yet. Meanwhile, Guildmaster Hongtu came out of the dungeon. The system announced in Novice Village number 9527 that Hegemony Guild had achieved the first clear of the hard difficulty Land of Mist dungeon. Guildmaster Hong Tu immediately told his men to get ready, because they would challenge the nightmare difficulty right away. Suddenly, another announcement appeared. It stated that Wealthy World had led a squad to achieve the first clear of the nightmare difficulty of the Land of Mist dungeon. Guildmaster Hong Tu was shocked that they had beaten them to it. He demanded to know how they managed to clear nightmare difficulty so quickly. Wealthy World simply wished him good luck. He was irritated that White Knight had only sold equipment and skill books to her. Now that White Knight dared to go against him, Hong Tu swore that he would make him pay. Wealthy World then told her team to rest for a while, because they would soon begin farming the Hell difficulty. At that moment, another Blue Star announcement appeared. The system congratulated Divine Dragon Empire player White Knight for becoming the first player in the Blue Star zone to reach level 10. Because of this milestone, the Novice Village level leaderboard opened ahead of schedule. The Novice Village number 9527 leaderboard was displayed. First place was White Knight, level 10, no faction. Second place was Maple Leaf Xiaoxiao, level 5, no faction. Third place was Awei, level 5, no faction. Fourth place was Hard to Wake Up, level 5, no faction. Fifth place was Wealthy World, level 5, no faction. Sixth place was Cotton Candy, level 5, no faction. Seventh place was Grand Hegemony, level 5 from Hegemony Guild. Eighth place was One Sword Seal's Throat, level 5, also from Hegemony Guild. Ninth place was Turkey Flavor Rice Crust, level 5, from Hegemony Guild. 10th place was Milky White Snow, level 5, also from Hegemony Guild. Guildmaster Hong Tu was clearly not pleased with these results. Cotton Candy told their boss that White Knight was leveling up incredibly fast. Maple Leaf Xiaoxiao agreed, saying it was like watching someone ride a rocket. During their trade earlier, he had only been level 8, while they were level 5. Since they had already obtained the Life Soul Stones, Wealthy World decided to send them to White Knight. She knew it was extremely important to build a good relationship with someone like him. She told her team they could move freely for now while she went back. Soon after, she met up with him. She handed over 10 basic Life Soul Stones, which were the reward from the first clear. She also told him that if he obtained any good items in the future, she hoped he would remember her first. She promised that price would never be an issue. The system then notified White Knight that his contract with her had been fulfilled. He assured her that as long as she had the money, there would naturally be no shortage of good items. Before leaving, he told her to contact him again once she left the Novice Village. That only confirmed for her that building a good relationship with him had been the right move. White Knight then headed toward a house. He felt that this was the right place. A man with a thick brown beard came out and said he hadn't expected a descender to reach level 10 so quickly. It was the village chief. White Knight told him that he wished to leave the Novice Village. The village chief agreed. He said that the God-forsaken land would eventually belong to the descenders anyway. Then he told White Knight to follow him. The floor at the center of the house began to glow, and the chief told White Knight to step inside. Their village was affiliated with East Sea City. East Sea City was one of the 10 great level 1 main cities of the Divine Dragon Empire, and also the Empire's most prosperous coastal city. The chief told him that arriving in East Sea City would be the true beginning of his journey. White Knight thanked him and promised that if fate allowed, he would return one day to repay him. After White Knight disappeared, the village chief let out a long sigh. He quietly muttered that the chaotic times of the God-forsaken land were coming again. And this time, he didn't know how many people would die. Meanwhile, Zhu asked Ruyan if she truly believed that White Knight might actually be Mubai. But Ruyan said she didn't care whether he was or not. She was confident that once they met him, he would never escape the palm of her hand. At EC City, White Knight had just finished teleporting. He commented that the world felt far too realistic. He was a little disappointed that leaving the Novice Village didn't even give a reward or anything special. Out of nowhere, the system notified him that the Death Scripture had increased to level 10. The Death Scripture profession belonged exclusively to him. It could not be dropped, damaged, or traded. He could summon it or put it away at will. It was currently level 10, matching his character level. Its basic attributes were plus 300 spell power, plus 100 to all attributes, and damage dealt by undead creatures increased by 100%. His summons would also receive this buff. Another effect was Soul Siphon, where targets killed by him or his summons would have a portion of their soul power absorbed by him. When wild monsters were killed by him, their respawn time doubled. When players were killed by him, they would suffer double penalties, including lifespan loss. His current soul points were 0. He needed to consume 1,000 soul points to gain a second chance to open the Death Scripture. The second special effect would unlock at level 30. The scripture was a book of rules that only he could read, and once certain conditions were met, he could learn the exclusive skills of the Death Sovereign from it. He found the double death penalty and the ability to learn exclusive skills particularly interesting. He opened the book, and the words inside began to float and glow. His own eyes also started glowing. At that moment, he learned a new skill called Death Gaze. The process was painful, but he successfully obtained the skill. Death Gaze was an SSS rank skill, level 1, with 0/50 proficiency. It was an active skill. Its effects were as follows. First, it dealt true damage equal to 50% of his spell power per second for 10 seconds. Second, creatures caught in his gaze would be continuously affected by fear. Third, all creatures with a life level lower than his would immediately have all attributes reduced by 20% when they were gazed upon. This effect depended entirely on life level and could not be reduced by resistance. Fourth, creatures killed by Death Gaze would suffer extreme pain, and after resurrection they would enter a weakened state, with all attributes reduced by 40% for 12 hours. The skill was instant cast, with a 60-second cooldown, and consumed 5% of his maximum mana. Once released, it required no continuous channeling, and its maximum attack range was 100 meters. In simple terms, wherever his gaze fell, death followed like a shadow. He was impressed by the true damage per second, and even more excited about the promotion traits, which could eventually double the damage and double the attack range. However, he also thought the phrase, "whoever you stare at dies," sounded a bit perverted. Suddenly, someone appeared nearby. The man said he didn't expect that, among the Descenders, someone would awaken this kind of power. He told White Knight that he was both lucky and unlucky. White Knight asked him who he was. The man had long silver hair and a beard. His name was Situji, the city lord of East Sea City, and an elder of the Divine Dragon Hall. He was clearly another powerful figure whose level could not be seen. White Knight politely greeted the city lord Situ. Situ's eyes lit up. He said White Knight truly carried the power of death. He could see that White Knight had already changed classes into a sovereign class profession. According to him, a class like that should never appear in the God-forbidden land. Our MC was caught off guard as this person actually saw through his hidden profession. Situ then sighed and said it was a pity. If White Knight walked this path, his future would be far harder than other sovereign classes. Curious, White Knight asked what he meant. Situ said the answer would come through a test. If he passed it, he would learn more about the Death Sovereign. The system suddenly notified him that he had obtained a quest item, the Medal of the Forgotten. He also accepted an epic grade mission called Situ's Test. The goal was simple, but terrifying. Clear the Land of the Forgotten and reach 100% exploration rate. The reward was unknown, and strangely, there was no failure penalty. White Knight was stunned. He had just picked up an epic mission for free. Then the medal began counting down to teleport him to the Land of the Forgotten. White Knight panicked. He hadn't even had time to prepare. He was planning to socket gems into his equipment first. He started shouting in frustration, asking where the teleportation array for the Land of the Forgotten even was. He had officially entered the Land of the Forgotten. The epic mission, Situ's Test, had now begun. To complete it, he had to clear the entire area within 72 hours and reach 100% exploration. White Knight immediately summoned his minions. Without them, he wouldn't feel safe for even a second. The skeleton mage appeared. It had 5,080 spirit, 5,080 agility, 5,080 constitution, and 20,640 HP. Its spell power reached 10,160, and its physical defense was 1,693. Its main skill was Fireball, rank E level 9, which dealt 220% of its spell power as fire damage, with a 1.5 second cast time and a 30-second cooldown. White Knight was pleased. Now that his minions had Fireball, their attacks were much more fierce. Soon, enemy skeletons started rushing toward him. They were level 20 normal monsters with 5,000 HP, 210 attack, 120 physical defense, and 80 magic defense. Creatures like these were everywhere in the Land of the Forgotten. Weak, but annoyingly plentiful. White Knight gave the order. All forces attack. The system notified him that he had killed a level 20 skeleton. He received a 50% level gap bonus, gaining plus 30 experience points. His far ahead skill also activated, giving him an extra plus 6 experience. White Knight frowned a little. He wondered why these level 20 monsters gave less experience than the level 10 wild bison earlier. Still, it worked out for him. There were skeletons everywhere. The system kept notifying him again and again as more level 20 skeletons fell. White Knight then decided to test his new skill, Death Gaze. The moment he used it, the skeletons dropped instantly. One hit was enough. He was impressed. The skill solved the problem immediately, though it was a bit ironic. Skeletons were already dead, and he was still killing them again. He continued attacking without holding back and quickly refilled his mana. Then he opened the death scripture. It showed 0 soul points. White Knight stared at the screen in confusion. That made no sense. He was certain he had siphoned the souls of the monsters he killed. So where did all the soul points go? Suddenly, a voice echoed through the area. It said that this place was the land of the forgotten. When they were alive, they had suffered a terrible curse, and their souls had been locked here ever since. A soul soon appeared and introduced himself as Road, one of the forgotten. He was a level 20 special elite soul form with 100,000 over 100,000 HP. His soul body was immune to physical damage. White Knight asked what this curse was about. Road explained that souls here could not be collected unless the curse was lifted. Curious, White Knight asked how to remove it. Road pointed toward a nearby pillar of light. When White Knight looked closer, he saw a chained coffin. The top of its lid was broken, and a creepy skeleton with long black hair was peeking out. Naturally, White Knight wanted to take a closer look. When they approached, even his skeleton minions hesitated. White Knight asked what was so strange about the coffin. It was called the Soul-Locking Coffin. It had 1 million/1 million shield value, 1,000 physical defense, and 1,000 magic defense. The system notified him that discovering the coffin increased his exploration rate by 2%. Destroying it would increase the rate by another 3%. However, there was a warning. Once the coffin was destroyed, a terrifying existence would be released. He was advised to act according to his ability. Road quickly urged him to destroy it. White Knight, however, was just curious. He wanted to see exactly how terrifying this thing really was. So he ordered his minions to start attacking. The skeletons rushed forward and slashed the coffin from every angle. Blow after blow landed on the lid. Soon, the coffin's shield bar dropped dangerously low. Road began to panic, saying it was about to come out. But White Knight simply watched with interest. Then it happened. A large and fierce skeleton burst out of the coffin. Heavy chains wrapped around its body. This was Neil, one of the Forgotten. He was a level 20 dark gold grade boss, a half-frost lich. His HP reached 1,500,000 over 1,500,000. He had 12,800 spell power, 1,500 physical defense, 2,100 magic defense, and 20% elemental resistance. His abilities included frost-type spells and shadow curse spells. He had clearly been trying to transform into a full lich, but had failed halfway. Neil glared at White Knight in fury. This outsider had ruined his transformation. Road panicked and told White Knight to run immediately, but Neil suddenly paused. He sensed something inside White Knight's body, a thick and powerful death aura. If he absorbed that energy, he believed he could finally complete his transformation. White Knight raised an eyebrow and calmly asked him one thing. Who gave you the confidence to think you could do that? Then he ordered his skeleton squad to attack. The skeletons rushed forward and struck Neil from all sides. Neil didn't look worried. His defenses were extremely high. He believed these weak undead could never break through. Then he smashed several of White Knight's skeletons with brutal force. But he suddenly froze when arrows began raining down from the skeleton archers. Neil stared at White Knight in shock. He demanded to know who he really was to summon so many powerful undead creatures. He quickly raised a frost shield to block the arrows. Then Neil called his own servants. The first was a ghoul, level 20, with 150,000/150,000 HP, 1,960 attack, 800 physical defense, and 700 magic defense. Its skills were Iron Hook Strike and Disease Cloud. The creature looked horrifying, stitched together from pieces of different corpses. The other servants were ghoul minions. They were also level 20, each with 80,000 HP, 1,580 attack, 500 physical defense, and 420 magic defense. Their skill was Gnaw. Their mouths constantly gave off the smell of rotting flesh. White Knight wrinkled his nose. He complained that the battlefield suddenly smelled terrible. So he decided to use his new skill, Death Gaze. The system notified him that Death Gaze had been used on Neil, the Forgotten. Because White Knight's life level was higher than Neil's, all of Neil's attributes were reduced by 40%. White Knight blinked. He wondered if becoming a Death Sovereign had raised his life level. Meanwhile, Neil felt his power suddenly drop. He couldn't understand what had just happened. White Knight didn't waste time. He ordered his minions to deal with the rotten fish and stinky shrimp in front of him. Every enemy had to be wiped out. The undead army attacked relentlessly, dealing continuous damage. As Neil was overwhelmed, he screamed in desperation. He shouted that he didn't want to be forgotten. The system notified him that he had killed the level 20 dark gold grade boss, the Forgotten, Neil. He gained a 50% experience bonus, receiving plus 750,000 experience. The far ahead skill also activated, giving him an extra plus 150,000 experience. Because of this, White Knight leveled up to level 12. He gained plus 1 point to all 4 attributes, plus 1 skill point, and plus 15 free attribute points. White Knight blinked. He couldn't believe the fight ended that easily. He also obtained a dark gold grade item called the Cursed Crown Fragment. This item was 1/7 of a dark gold grade equipment. If all fragments were collected, the cursed crown would automatically repair itself. But the wearer would suffer a curse and endure constant erosion from death energy. White Knight felt a little annoyed. The small monsters didn't drop anything, and the boss was surprisingly stingy. Still, he had to collect all the fragments. Since they were dark gold fragments, once repaired, the finished item should at least reach epic grade equipment. For now, he decided to keep it. Out of nowhere, Road appeared right in front of him, amazed that White Knight had actually granted Neil his release. He invited White Knight to go kill the next person, then quickly corrected himself. They would go save the next person. Road told him to just follow him since the next one was right ahead, but this time it wouldn't be that easy. White Knight didn't expect there to be another one. White Knight replied that if it was too troublesome, he wouldn't bother going. Road immediately tried to bribe him with the skill book. White Knight squinted at him and asked why he didn't take it out earlier if he already had one. The skill book was called Corpse Explosion. It was an active skill, C rank level 1. It detonated a target corpse or remains, dealing magic damage to all enemies within a 5-meter range. It couldn't be used on boss corpses. The damage was 10% of the target's maximum HP, plus 100% of spell power. The cast range was 30 meters, with instant cast, a 30-second cooldown, and 300 mana cost. When White Knight read it, he realized it was an area of effect skill. He immediately decided to promote it. The skill upgraded into a B-rank skill called Advanced Corpse Explosion. It detonated a corpse within a 10-meter range, still unusable on boss corpses. The damage increased to 15% of the target's max HP, plus 150% spell power. The cast range became 50 meters, still instant cast, with a 30-second cooldown, but the mana cost increased to 600. He used it on an enemy. The explosion burst outward and covered a wide area. White Knight didn't expect the power to be that strong, or the range to be that wide. Road kept praising him, but White Knight ignored the nonsense. He was simply happy to have an AoE skill now. Grinding monsters should become much faster. An hour later, White Knight muttered that the Land of the Forgotten was actually quite huge. Soon he encountered the Forgotten, Walter. This was already his 7th opponent. White Knight used Corpse Explosion on him. Walter refused to die easily. Before falling, he threatened that White Knight would eventually pay the price. In the end, Walter died and dropped loot. White Knight now had 7 fragments. He checked what equipment could be synthesized. Road suddenly yelled at him not to synthesize it, warning that the item would erode him, but the fragments had already begun forming into a crown. White Knight asked Road what nonsense he was talking about. Road stared at the crown with fear and said it was already too late. The system notified White Knight that he had obtained the item Cursed Crown. The fragments fused together and repaired the equipment. His current exploration rate had now reached 50%. Just as he expected, once the fragments were promoted, the final item's grade also increased by 1 level. But the 50% exploration rate meant there were still other monsters remaining. Road urgently told him to throw away the crown immediately. Otherwise, the death energy would erode him, and he would eventually become a walking corpse just like the others here. But White Knight stood there, in a daze. Road shouted again, telling him to throw it away quickly. The system then notified him that he had suffered death energy erosion from the cursed crown. However, the death energy stored in his body had already reached its limit. He could continue absorbing more only after consuming some of it. Any excess death energy would not cause any effect on him. Suddenly, the ground began to tremble. White Knight snapped back to his senses. He asked if there really was such a terrifying enemy here. He immediately ordered the skeleton squad to form a defensive stance. A faint white light began leaking out from the ground. Road instantly realized who was coming, and fear filled his face. A red coffin with golden edges slowly rose from the ground. The system notified that the aura of the cursed crown had awakened Lich Franklin, who had been slumbering beneath the Land of the Forgotten. Road shouted that it was Franklin who had cursed them all. He was the one who turned this place into the Land of the Forgotten. Road begged White Knight to help him kill the monster Franklin. In return, he was willing to pay anything. White Knight realized that this NPC had already become something like a companion to him, so he promised to help. Road's status panel appeared. He was the mayor of Sunset Town, and what stood before White Knight was only a remnant of his soul. He was a level 20 special elite in soul form, with 100,000 over 100,000 HP. His skill was Soul Possession, which increased the target's main attribute by 20%. His soul form was immune to physical damage. Road had finally recovered his memories. He used to be the mayor of Sunset Town, but now he was the only remaining soul left. White Knight accepted the unique hidden mission, Rhodes' request. The objective was to kill Lich Franklin. The reward was unknown. He also received the Soul Possession buff, increasing his spirit attribute by 20%. Rhodes thanked White Knight. Franklin was incredibly powerful, so he promised to fight alongside him with everything he had. The Forgotten. Franklin was a level 20 Frost Lich. Because he was in a severely injured state, his level had been reduced. He was still an epic grade boss, with 15 million/15 million HP, 48,000 spell power, 5,000 physical defense, and 8,000 magic defense. His elemental resistances were 95% ice, 30% shadow, and 25% death. His skills included frost spells, shadow spells, and death spells. He was a true lich. Even though his soul had suffered heavy damage, he was still extremely dangerous. Franklin was surprised to see that the pitiful man from back then had actually survived. Then he sensed the power coming from the repaired cursed crown. He called for the crown to return to him, its rightful master. But to his surprise, the crown didn't respond. White Knight calmly said there was no reason the item in his hand should listen to Franklin's summons. The cursed crown head was a legendary grade item usable from level 10 to 20, with 1000/1000 durability. The normal equipment requirement was Franklin, but the Death Sovereign could ignore that requirement and forcefully equip it. After killing the opponent, the equipment restriction would return to normal. Its base attributes were level 15, plus 100 physical defense, plus 200 magic defense, plus 2000 HP, plus 4000 mana, and plus 75 to all attributes. White Knight put the crown on. Its effects were as follows: plus 10% spirit, plus 30% curse resistance, and the wearer would suffer continuous energy erosion. One of its skills was Power of Curse, a passive ability that caused all spells to carry a curse effect. It randomly applied 2 curses to the target, lasting 5 seconds, with a 5-second cooldown. The second skill was Curse Aura, an aura-type skill. When activated, all enemies within 100 meters had their speed reduced by 30%. This included attack speed, movement speed, and casting speed. The skill consumed 200 mana per second and had no cooldown. Franklin immediately summoned his Shadow Knights. They were level 20 with 200,000 over 200,000 HP, 6,800 attack, 1,800 physical defense, and 1,800 magic defense. Their skills included Shadow Charge, Power of Shadow, and Shadow Shield. The army of an epic grade boss was clearly much stronger than that of a dark gold boss. White Knight didn't hesitate. He challenged the underlings first and ordered his skeleton squad to charge. The skeleton knights struck the horses of the Shadow Knights, while the skeleton archers rained arrows down on them. White Knight activated Curse Aura. Their speed instantly dropped by 30%. Forget riding horses. At this speed, even a car would crawl like a snail. Franklin could only curse in anger. Meanwhile, White Knight felt quite satisfied. He was now level 15, equipped with 2 legendary items, and the Death Scripture had boosted his attributes significantly. Compared to when he first arrived in the Land of the Forgotten, his stats had nearly doubled. The only disappointment was that the Cursed Crown couldn't be promoted further. Franklin coldly warned him that he was courting death. White Knight replied that he wouldn't even give him a chance to breathe. He immediately used Death Gaze on Franklin. The system judged that White Knight's life level was higher than his opponent's. As a result, the Curse Agony was applied to Franklin, dealing shadow damage equal to 100% of spell power every second for 5 seconds. Franklin was down on his knees. He couldn't believe what was happening. He asked White Knight who he really was. White Knight replied that he didn't need to know. That answer annoyed Franklin. A wretched human dared to insult a great lich. He declared that no matter who White Knight was, he would still be buried in the Land of the Forgotten. A violent tornado burst out of Franklin's chest. He wanted the human dead. On top of that, Franklin wanted our MC's power. He summoned Caucus. This was Caucus, an undead bone dragon. Level 20. It was heavily injured, so its level had dropped. Even so, it was still an epic grade boss. Its health was 20 million out of 20 million. Attack, 12,000. Physical defense, 10,000. Magic defense, 6,000. Death-type elemental resistance, 30%. Its skills were Bone Prison, Bone Spike Hell, and Death Storm. The system notified White Knight that Caucus had appeared, and his exploration rate had now reached 90%. White Knight couldn't believe it. Franklin had actually summoned a bone dragon. Just as he thought, the test given by the City Lord of East Sea City was seriously brutal. Caucus unleashed a blazing breath attack at him. The skeletons quickly formed a defensive barrier and blocked the attack for him. Franklin was stunned. Those were just skeleton warriors, yet they managed to block his bone dragon. The system notified White Knight that he had consumed all his death energy points to reinforce the target skeleton warrior, boosting all its attributes by 640%. He suffered death energy erosion from the Cursed Crown. His death energy points increased by +10. As he began collecting death energy again, he thought of the crown as a walking power bank. He was excited to demonstrate his power. Franklin was pushed back and became furious. He shouted at White Knight for using his crown. Then he unleashed Frost Hell. The spell shot straight into White Knight's chest. Franklin burst into loud laughter after firing his death ray. With a fragile human body like that, he expected the man to die instantly. But he soon realized something was wrong. This human had learned the life-sharing skill, but that skill wasn't perfect. Franklin immediately cast a powerful spell called Death and Decay. Then he created Bone Prison, trapping our MC inside. He followed it up with Bone Spike Hell. Most of White Knight's skeletons were pierced by spikes that erupted from the ground. White Knight realized Franklin was trying to use area of effect attacks to break his life-sharing. He recalled the unreinforced skeletons to free up summon space. Now Franklin wouldn't be able to break it. Then he ordered the remaining skeletons to capture the leader. If they caught Franklin, the bandits would fall apart. He planned to finish him directly. Franklin was startled when a skeleton suddenly got close. He dealt continuous damage to it. White Knight told his skeleton to endure. The skeleton was eventually torn into pieces. Franklin declared that the human had lost, but White Knight replied that he was joking. The system notified that he had consumed death energy points. He reinforced the skeleton again. Franklin grew frightened when it started approaching him once more. He couldn't move from where he stood. Then the skeleton struck and killed him. The system notified that White Knight had killed Franklin. He gained an extra 70% experience bonus and earned 12.75 million experience points. With that, he advanced to level 17. He gained +1 to all attributes, +1 skill point, and +15 free attribute points. He also defeated the level 20 epic boss, the undead bone dragon, Cacus. He earned a 70% experience bonus and gained 25 million experience points. This pushed his level up to level 19. He gained +1 point to all attributes, +1 skill point, and +15 free attribute points. He also became the first player in the Blue Star Zone to kill an epic grade boss. His reward was +100 to his main attribute, +50 skill points, and 50 intermediate life soul stones. White Knight couldn't help but feel impressed with his progress. He checked the soul stones and realized he no longer had to worry about his lifespan running out. He now had 50 advanced life soul stones, and each one could increase lifespan by 1 year after absorption. Naturally, he absorbed all of them, bringing his lifespan to 51 years. Just like that, his lifespan crisis was completely solved. The system then made a Blue Star Zone announcement. White Knight had become the first player in the entire Blue Star Zone to solo kill an epic grade boss. Wealthy World immediately realized that they had to cling to him tightly. When the announcement spread, Shu told Ruyan that they had to leave the novice village as soon as possible and meet up with this White Knight. Ruyan admitted that he was powerful, but as long as he was a man, whether he was White Knight or Mubai, she was confident he would fall for her charms. White Knight obtained the epic grade special item, Dragon Skull Pendant. When used, it would grant him an epic grade mount, the Undead Bone Dragon. He was amazed by it. Just imagining himself riding an epic flying mount already made him excited. Then he decided to promote it and obtained a legendary grade special item called Frosthorn. If he blew it, he could summon a legendary mount from the undead realm, the Frost Dragon. He blew the horn. An ominous portal then appeared. A dense aura of death suddenly spread through the air. The Frost Dragon appeared. It stared down and didn't expect that the one who summoned it was just a foolish human. Suddenly, a light of purification enveloped it. White Knight panicked and quickly told it not to touch him. Then something unexpected happened. The Frost Dragon suddenly became docile. It willingly accepted becoming his mount. With that, White Knight's mount space was unlocked. A Blue Star announcement was made that White Knight had obtained a mount. At the same time, the Blue Star Zone mount leaderboard was officially opened. The Frost Dragon shrank in size and landed on White Knight's shoulder. White Knight soon discovered that mounts also had leaderboards, and even their own skills. The Frost Dragon was a God-tier advancement class at level 0. Its maximum level could not exceed the player's level by more than 10. It had 100 loyalty points, a 200% movement speed bonus, and health points of 1 million out of 1 million. Its stats would grow with its level. It had mana points of 20,000 out of 20,000, attack power of 12,000, spell power of 80,000, physical defense of 10,000, and magic defense of 12,000. Its elemental resistance included 80% to ice, 70% to water, 60% to dark, and 40% to other elements. Its skills were Frost Dragon Breath, Dragon Might, and Size Reduction. Once it reached certain levels, it would automatically comprehend more skills. Frost Dragon Breath dealt ice damage equal to 300% of its spell power every second to targets within a 5-meter radius, while applying stiffening and slowing effects for up to 10 seconds. Dragon might released the pressure of the Dragon King, covering all creatures within a 1,000-meter range. Creatures with a lower life level than the Frost Dragon King would have all their attributes reduced by 10% to 20%. The greater the life level gap, the stronger the deterrence. If the level gap doubled, the dragon's effect would also double. Lastly, size reduction allowed the dragon to shrink its body to a certain extent, making it easier to fight or enter narrow places. White Knight was deeply impressed by the power of a mythical grade creature. Meanwhile, other players were going crazy over the new mount leaderboard. They were shocked that White Knight already had a mythical frost dragon. It honestly felt like he was playing a completely different game from everyone else. Some players told others not to compare themselves to White Knight. One of them had just seen his own boss, who was only level 3 and had an F-rank talent. After hearing that, the others suddenly felt much better about their situation. Meanwhile, White Knight was feeding his frost dragon when Road told him that he had sensed the location of the phylactery. White Knight asked where it was. Road simply told him to follow him. They went deeper into the forest and soon found Franklin's phylactery. It was an epic grade item with 1 million out of 1 million durability. This was a life-saving item that Franklin had crafted during the peak of his power. It contained his soul fire. As long as the phylactery remained intact, the Lich would never truly die. White Knight couldn't help but feel amused by how absurdly durable it was. Road said he wanted to personally finish off this guy. Suddenly, Franklin's voice came from the phylactery as he burst into laughter. He mocked Road and asked what a mere remnant like him could possibly do. Road was furious. He grabbed the phylactery with both hands and told Franklin to die. Franklin tried to resist, but it was useless. Road succeeded. He then turned to White Knight and thanked him for everything he had done for Sunset Town. He thanked him sincerely, tears streaming down his face. White Knight immediately received several system notifications. First, he obtained 1,000 soul points, since he had destroyed the soul of the level 20 epic boss, the Forgotten. Franklin, he gained an additional 70% experience bonus and received 12.75 million experience points. This pushed him up to level 20. He gained +1 point to all attributes, +1 skill point, and +15 free attribute points. With this, he completed Road's request and received an additional 10 million experience points, along with 1,000 gold coins. His exploration rate also reached 100%. This officially completed Situ's test. The system advised him to return to East Sea City and find Situ to claim his reward. He also obtained 1,200,000 gold coins, 20 level 5 attribute gems, 10 epic grade materials called Millennium Ice Crystal, and 24 basic Destiny Soul Stones. At the East Sea City Teleportation Plaza, there still wasn't a single player in the city. That meant no one had reached level 10 yet. Since that was the case, White Knight decided to test his mount first. He summoned his Frost Dragon. It appeared in its original form. Our boy's agenda now is to find Siyu and turn in the mission. He climbed onto its back and rode it. Some of the side characters saw the massive shadow that loomed over them, and they couldn't believe it. Eventually, Situ saw him arriving on the Frost Dragon. White Knight had clearly exceeded his expectations. As soon as that White Knight landed, Situ told him to make his pet shrink. Otherwise, his place wouldn't survive all that tossing around. They entered the lounge area. Situ quickly realized that White Knight's profession wasn't as simple as just a sovereign class profession. White Knight asked what he meant. He asked if there was a difference between sovereign class professions. Situ admitted he wasn't completely sure, but since White Knight had completed the test, he was willing to answer some of his questions. Meanwhile, White Knight couldn't help but think that Situ was a little stingy for not giving any mission rewards. Situ explained that in the Myriad Worlds game, professions were divided into tiers. First were normal professions, second were hidden professions and advanced hidden professions. Third were unique hidden professions, and fourth were exclusive hidden professions. White Knight's Death Sovereign belonged to the highest tier, an exclusive hidden profession. Normally, it would have been impossible for someone at his stage to reach that tier. Players only had their first chance to break through at level 29. Even Situ couldn't understand how White Knight had managed to obtain it. Of course, White Knight couldn't exactly explain that it was because of his substitute system, but Situ warned him not to celebrate too early. The stronger the profession, the harder it was to advance. For the Death Sovereign profession to grow stronger, it needed to experience enough death. In the near future, a massive war was destined to erupt in the godforsaken land. The Divine Dragon Hall, which protected the entire Divine Dragon Empire, hoped that White Knight would travel to different nations to advance and conquer their lands. Only then would the human race truly gain the qualifications to step into the Myriad Worlds. White Knight pointed out that the national borders hadn't opened yet. Situ handed him some documents and told him to find a certain person and deliver the letter. That person would give him a treasure capable of crossing national borders. When White Knight saw the picture attached to the document, he was surprised. It was Jian. The system then notified him that he had signed a contract with the Divine Dragon Hall. From now on, only he would be allowed to advance in other nations. If he violated the contract, he would be hunted down by the Divine Dragon Hall. However, if the Divine Dragon Hall managed to reunify the God-forsaken land, the contract would automatically become void. Situ told him that once he reached the third tier, he would personally recommend White Knight to join the Divine Dragon Hall. Then he gave him something. With that item, White Knight would have unimpeded access throughout EC City. White Knight thanked him. He had received EC Token 007. It was a special item personally crafted by City Lord Situ, and only a very limited number existed. Possessing it made him the master of courtyard number 0007 in EC City. White Knight couldn't hide his excitement. He now owned a house in a Tier 1 city. Alright, that's it for today's story. If you want the weekly chapter updates for this series, those will now be uploaded on my second channel, Manhwa Updater. So if you don't want to miss what happens next, make sure to check it out and join the update gang. Thanks for watching, stay cool, stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.